Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Welcome to the Talking with the Experts Online Business Summit.
Hello and welcome to the May 2025 Talking with the Experts Online Business Summit, where innovative business owners and industry leaders come together to share insights and their strategies and some success stories. This online event is designed for entrepreneurs who are eager to learn, connect and grow their businesses. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just starting out, this summit offers a wealth of knowledge from experts across various industries. Gain actionable strategies, discover the latest business trends, and learn how to overcome challenges in today's dynamic marketplace. My next guest is Alan Stevens, and Alan is going to be talking to us about the power of strategic communication and unlocking the potential of any relationship, be it personal, professional, or educational. It all begins with understanding the nuances of communication. Alan is a master at enhancing human connections, and he is the creator of Rapid Trait Profiling System, RTP, as a unique approach to decoding the science and art of reading people to foster genuine relationships. His work transcends merely solving communication problems to empower clients to unlock the vast potential of every interaction. Serving businesses and individuals, Alan guides them to mastery in unconscious communication through practical techniques that transform everyday conversations into platforms for deeper understanding. Driven by a passion for empowering connections, his mission is to create architects of connection who leverage empathy, understanding and effective leadership to shape interactions into opportunities for shared success. Alan Stevens is redefining how we communicate, making every exchange meaningful. He is also create the We Together initiative and the Campfire Project, which fosters community dialogue and support. And this project reflects his commitment to societal improvement and mental health awareness. Alan, as always, it is such a pleasure to not only see you again, but to invite and welcome you to the summit.
Thanks very much for that. We've had quite a few chats in the past, and it's always been about how to improve relationships and bring people together. So conversations have always been enjoyable. Today, what I want to do is I'm going to share my slides in a moment, but I'm going to go through them fairly quickly. And because I just want to get a couple of points out there so people understand where this all came from, why it's so powerful and why they should be looking at using it. But then I'd like to get rid of the slides and come back to you and let's have a bit of a conversation around it. Because if it's okay with you, I'll even show people a little bit about what I'm seeing in your face as well.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, let's make it a little bit more interactive, because one of the things is, I don't know about anybody else, but I hate death by PowerPoints. But sometimes we have to use PowerPoints to be able to show things in the way that we need to be able to deliver it. So very quickly, you can see my screen there. As we said, the power of strategic communications, and it's using all the skills that we have in being able to connect with somebody. The main reason, what I'm going to do is, as I said, a quick background, so you know where it came from and why I do what I do. Then we're going to look at some of the skills, how we use them and where we use them, and how we improve our lives with that information. Very quickly, my background. I've worked right across the industries. I've worked with Disney Films. I've worked with Gillette. I've worked with the Federal Police, the tax office. I've worked with business of all sizes and parents and school teachers. And it's always been around how to connect with people and how to be able to build stronger relationships, not to use any of the skills that I've got to manipulate, but only use them to create those stronger bonds. It's all about using it to help other people. As far as all the training I do, if somebody wants to be trained to be able to use it to manipulate, I'm not interested. If they want to learn this to actually help other people, that's my passion. But the reason for having communications is to build relationships. That's the primary thing. And in doing that, for better negotiations, but also at the same time to work out any underlying deceptions, to find out where the real truth is. I read people for the purpose of understanding how that they need to be spoken to, knowing how I need to be spoken to in the first place, how I like to communicate, and changing that to match the way that they need to be spoken to. Once I've got that in place, then I've got the feedback from what we call their body language and expressions that tell me Have I read them right? Is there something emotionally going on? And are they telling the truth? But that last bit, not as a lie detector, but as a truth seeker. And it's always building relationships. I've used this in a whole mass of different areas. In my business, which is human pattern recognition, as Rose has already mentioned, the Campfire Project that I created almost 7 years ago this August, which is both a safe place for men and women from around the world to come and tell their stories. Most of them who have come in have had a story they've never been able to tell anybody else before. And giving them a safe place to be able to do that, by being able to read them and speak to them in the way that they need to be spoken to, made it so much easier for me to make that connection. That then led on to the Business of Smiles, which is a registered charity here in Australia that works in the area of mental health, in particular, helping men to become better men, to work through the issues that they've got. And the reason for that is that if we do that properly, the recipients of that are their partners, their families, and the community. So everybody benefits in the process. And because I want to keep my hand into education, I'm also a director of the Montessori Primary School on the Central Coast. So you can see that I cover all aspects. And because of that, the skills have been rewarded in so many different locations, all over Australia and internationally as well, in community events, in business, in education, you name it, the skills are used everywhere. But the main reason that I use the skills as a leader, our role is to make ourselves redundant. By that, I mean we raise others up to do the work that we're doing and hopefully doing it better than we've ever done it. And the reason we do that is so that we can then move on and do something new ourselves. We can expand and grow further. If you don't support the people in your business and help them to become as good as you, if not better than you, then you've created yourself a prison where you can't move. If you're indispensable in that role, how do you grow? So I always like to make myself dispendable so that I can then move on to the next level. And to do that, I've got to help other people. And the best way I can do that is by being able to read them in the right way and communicating them to them as necessary. Now, in business, the why we use these skills is to make a sale. And by the way, hopefully by the end of this little comment here, if you don't like using the term that you're a salesperson if you're in business, so let's face it, everybody on the planet's a salesperson. Children are salespeople. They sell their parents on the idea of lollies or whatever it might be. Children read us really well. If any of you out there have young children, answer this question to yourself. How often do your children push you to the edge but don't push you over the edge? That's because they've read you, they know you really well, and they've used that to their benefit. Then in finding a partner, a life partner, for instance, that's a sale and convincing somebody to spend the rest of their life with you. So everything we do is a sale. It's not just in business. But what we're doing in a sale is helping people to save time. We're helping them to either save money or make money. And we're helping them to get the emotional outcomes that they want out of it. A person might say to you, look, I want to get more sales in my business. I want to get more conversions. Why do you want to get more conversions? Because, well, I don't really want to get more. I just want to get them faster because I've got young children. I want to take them to school in the morning and I want to be there when they come home from school in the afternoon. So what's the emotional reason behind whatever it is that somebody wants? So finding that is important. If we do that, we're no longer a salesperson, we're a problem solver. We bring the solution to the problem they have to the table for them to be able to get that outcome. And in doing that, we remove their worry and stress. These are the reasons why we need to be able to communicate. It'd be the same if you're working with your children or if you're working with your loved ones, like your direct partner or business colleagues or anybody else. These skills translate right across the board. And the one thing to be aware of before you even start looking at people is to be aware that everybody has suffered or insecure to some degree. Everybody wears a mask. Everybody pretends they're not wearing a mask. And yes, that's me as well. I've been through a lot of situations where I've tried to hide things that I was feeling at the time for one reason or another. And the last one is we're all a product of our childhood rewards and sufferings. We are a combination of how we have chosen to decide to respond to all the events in our life. And so being aware of that, we then know straight away that everybody's got some issue or another. We can then start to look at people without having that pressure on ourselves that we've got to be perfect, because nobody's perfect. But the beautiful part of it is when we find those differences in people that are different to us, this is where we find the beauty in those people. We find strengths that they can't see themselves, and quite often that we've overlooked in ourselves as well at the same time. But to do it properly, to be able to influence somebody, we have to be able to engage them. To engage them, we've got to be able to connect with them first. And as you notice, I like threes. So we've got the connect up here. If we connect with them properly by being able to read them, knowing how to communicate with them, so changing the language we use, and then getting confirmation to make sure we've read them right, we then are able to engage them through faster rapport, stronger relationships, greater trust. And at the same time, that's when we can influence them. So the top section is building a relationship. And then in the transition of the conversation we have, this is when we can sell our products and services. And as I said, that might be convincing somebody to become your life partner. That, as I said, in itself is a sale. So they're the major things. But the way I do it is those three areas. This is where we read people. But again, we have to know how they take information in. We need to know how they like to process that information. We need to know how they're likely to respond in any given situation. If we are able to do that properly, then we know what detail to give them. We know when we're talking to them, we know what order to give the information to them in. And we also know what style. Are they somebody who is very formal, or they're more laid back, etc.? All of that is in the communication. And then from there, we get the confirmation coming back. And we made sure that we look at all the little indicators, not just one at a time, but all of them together, to be able to realize whether we've got them. So what is the actual cluster of them together telling us? At the same time, are they congruent, and are they in context as well with what we expect and what we're talking about? Now, I'm going to go in reverse order. I'll go back to the facial features last of all, but body language, most people have heard about. Micro expressions were very popularized very much by the show Lie to Me, which was about 10 years ago now. This is where we're actually able to use micro expressions, little twitches on the face, to be able to read somebody, to know whether they're telling us the truth or not, and what their emotions are. So as I said, knowing how to read those in clusters, are they congruent, and are they in context with what we expect? As far as body language goes, we've got a mass of things we can look at. We can look at the dilation of the pupils when the light isn't changing. We can look at how their breathing changes from the abdomen up to the upper chest. What's their blink rate? How fast are they blinking? Or if they're regularly blinking, but all of a sudden they slow down the blinking, but the flashing of the blink of the eye is even faster again, the shutter speed increases. That will tell us information about what they're really feeling, and whether they're actually telling us the truth in the process as well. From there, there's so much information, but with the micro expressions, these are little twitches on the face that happen when anybody says something to them, or something happens around them. Unconsciously, we respond. Now, the face has about 43 muscles in it, can pull over 10,000 expressions. Paul Ekman and his team, when they did the research on all this back in 1969 and the years after that, they found that they mapped out 3,000 different expressions with the muscle movements in the face. But what he found was there are 7 expressions which are universal. If anybody is feeling any one of those emotions inside, like they're angry, they're going to have an angry look on their face. And it doesn't matter if they've been born in a tribal village or a capital city, or even if they've been blind from birth. If they feel any one of those emotions, they will have the corresponding look on their face. But it's a fleeting expression. As I said, it happens unconsciously, and then the conscious mind steps in. An example of that might be you're walking through the garden and you see something out of the corner of your eye. There's a look of surprise, and you have a look because there was something there you saw, and you think, well, it might have been a snake, and then you realize it's a branch that's fallen off the tree, or somebody's left the hose out curled up and you mistook that. But you would have had that look of surprise at the moment. If it was a snake, then it'll probably move into fear. If it's the kids have left the hose out after you've told them to put it away, it might be a little bit of anger towards the kids. Could be a whole mass of different reasons that follow on. But they happen as fast as a fifth of a second down to 1/25th of a second in speed. But the thing is, I would say most of the people who are listening to this today or any other time, if you practice this, you can read them quite accurately. It doesn't take too long to start learning when you know how to actually start to watch and look for it. But I can always explain more about that at another time. But from there, it's getting your language right. So to be able to pick those indicators up to actually cause the body to give away that information, we have to get our language right. How do we ask questions? Now, are they open questions, closed questions, or probing questions? In what order do we ask them? In asking the questions the right way, the body will start, if they're trying to conceal information, the body will start leaking information. We'll start getting those expressions that are incongruent with what we would expect to get if they were telling the truth. We start to pick up nervous reactions and things. And the more that we use those in a proper order, then we'll actually get those results faster and get to the truth very quickly. But one of the things, this is one I really wanted to cover, in communication, everybody, there's books out there, Get to Yes. Everybody's pushing to get to a yes in communications really fast. Well, the negotiation doesn't start until you get a no. So knowing how to ask questions in a way to make sure you get a no, because once you do, you're into a conversation, because the other person, when they say no, they will start telling you what they believe is what you should have understood. Now you're into a conversation. That's when the language I just mentioned a moment ago, the different types of questions, can really start to open things up. You can help them to feel more comfortable. If they're somebody that you think is not telling the truth, you can make them more nervous as well, so their body will give away more. So this is where the strategy comes in the communications and getting that right. But the foundation of all of this, the most important part, is the facial features. Now, this may sound crazy to you, but the brain controls all of our body movements, all of our expressions, etc. So what we're feeling inside, we express outwardly. And this is when we're thinking about different ways, we're pulling the same expression over and over. And what we'll end up doing is we will create ridges and crevices on our face that then give away how we like to think and process. It doesn't give away our character. It's not talking about what we're thinking about and why we're thinking about it, but it does give away how that person likes to think and process, how they like to be treated. That's why that's the foundation. You get that right. And once you've got that right, everything else flows from there. Very quickly, I'll give you 3 examples, but I won't play the videos and other things that are involved with these. This gentleman is a business coach in Perth. When he sent me some, and by the way, I did it from his photographs. I profiled him. I sent him a 45-minute audio response to what I could see and how he could use that to his benefit. That's when he told me he used to be an undercover narcotics agent for 2 decades. And he used skills that, as he says there, were up to 95% accurate. If they hadn't been, as he said, he wouldn't be alive today. But what I put in that audio not only matched, but nuanced everything he learned about himself. That's great when it comes to business. He's a leadership coach and he's training the leadership in the SAS at the moment. If you're a parent, this lady, I profiled her son when he was 6 years old. School didn't want him. After school care didn't want him. The psychologist said he needed care for the rest of his life. The end result was that I profiled and gave her information to take to the school in the after schools care. She played one against the other. They put in place what I recommended. 2 years later, the psychologist was let go. And the last testimonial she did for me was last year. He was 19 at the time, living on his own. This is a boy that they said would always need a carer for the rest of his life. He's living in Queensland. He's got his own place, got a girlfriend, driving a car, and he's now an assistant manager in a nightclub. And so they're the benefits of that side of that. This lady in education, she had 7 students in her class over in Dublin, in Griffith College. While we were training, the end of that term, another college closed down and she went from 7 students to 70. Most of her students are neurodiverse in one form or another. She's been able to manage to get them working in pods. Most psychologists will tell you you can't do that, and most educators will say that's impossible, but she's done it. What I'm doing at the moment is training her to train her competition. The other lecturers in the group. So basically, this was what drives me. It's all about How do I connect with somebody? How do I find out all about them? Where are their strengths? What are the gifts they bring to the table? Because at the end of the day, there is nobody on the planet who doesn't bring a gift to the table. And that's what we always miss. We're always thinking, well, how do we manipulate things? How do we get results? If you're worried about not trusting somebody, this is where these skills come in. And the moment you realize that you've read that person wrong and they do have value, it changes your relationships. Because one of the things that may happen to you in the past is, have you had somebody that did the wrong thing by you, and then since then you've seen somebody who looked like them? Natural feeling is we don't trust them. What the facial features tell us is those two people would have thought the same way in the way they process information, took it in, and how they react to situations, but not what or why they're doing what they're doing. One could be a saint, one could be a sinner. So the end result is you've now ruined a relationship with somebody who might be a good contact or a good ally. And so being able to read people, where people say that what I do, is it judgmental? No, the profiling that most people do, the way we look at other people, the way we treat them, is judgmental. It's based on our biases, our past experiences. Mine comes from the science. So we're actually looking at how that person does like to be spoken to, how they like to be treated, how they like to respond. We've got the indicators to prove the feedback that we get from it. So all of that makes it, we make a judgment call, but it's more based on more reality than just our feelings of what we've been through. So that's a pretty quick rush through it. And I hope I didn't talk too fast for people, but if you're watching this as a replay later on, you've got the controls on your browser, slow it down. You'll be able to listen to me a bit slower then. I can't hear you there, Rose. You're muted.
Thanks. It was a great presentation, Alan. Thank you. And I have done a couple of your trainings about facial features and how you can tell, certain things from certain people. I passed most of the challenges that you put forth in that training, only because I come from an abusive background as a child, survivor of child abuse and domestic violence. So you learn to read people pretty well from a young age, and so that's probably why I got to pass most of that test. But it was interesting about the micro expressions that that you don't often think that you realize that you're seeing, but or even portraying that are picked up quite often by the other party, and sometimes they're quite subtle, and it can change the whole mood or the whole way that you communicate with that person.
That's it, because how many times have you heard someone speaking and you thought everything sounded okay, but you had that gut feeling that something wasn't right? Well, there's two things that it could have been. One, that they do remind you of somebody who's done the wrong thing by you in the past, and therefore you've just taken that reaction to them. Or more than likely, you've picked up the non-verbal indicators, the body language, the expressions. Something didn't correlate with the way they were talking. And whenever the non-verbals don't correlate with the words themselves, we'll always go with the non-verbals, and we don't have trust for that person. So the more we're able to read that side of things, the more we're able to make sure that we know where that person's really coming from.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's how we base a lot of our communications with others and relationships as well, as whether you can trust someone or you think. Sometimes we do get it wrong, though. As you're right, they may look like somebody that's done harm to you, or they may sound like someone in that same position, so we automatically distrust them. We can look at other factors, and they need to communicate with us probably more deeply before we can trust them.
That's it. So the more we're able to understand their personality and know what we expect should happen in the way they respond to things, and if they're not doing that, then we can go, okay, something's definitely going on here. But when we're getting everything that's coming back is all aligned, we can then start to relax. If that was somebody who we just had that feeling earlier on because they possibly looked like somebody who had done the wrong thing, then we don't get bogged down in keeping that attitude going, because the thing is that we create a self-fulfilling prophecy. If we don't trust the other person, we actually give that out in our body language as well. And so they pick that up. And so now they pull back, and then we turn around and go, oh, we were right. No, we created a self-fulfilling prophecy. So this is why it's so important to always look at it. I treat everybody as though they're innocent to start with. But by having the skills, you can figure out whether they're guilty very quickly. And therefore, they don't get that chance to manipulate. But I'm doing a lot of work at the moment around coercive control, domestic violence, difference between Machiavellians, narcissists, sociopaths, psychopaths, and how to recognize them, how to keep yourself safe, because we do have an increase in those sort of behaviors out there, but some of it is also due to circumstances for those people. So the more we're able to connect with them, the more we're able to improve that relationship with them. A lot of those people will change as well. Psychopaths, for instance, they will never change. They're wired differently because they were born that way. Whereas sociopaths, they're virtually been educated for things that happened to them in the past. That's the way they've then responded. And so knowing that, because I know a lot of people are talking about somebody being a sociopath, psychopath, and it's like, no, they're one or the other. They can't be both. Or a narcissistic sociopath. No, they're two different categories. The more that we understand those, the more we can then recognize them, and the more we're able to keep ourselves safe from them.
Yes, and it is important, and in business, it is vitally important that you can trust the people that you're working with. So if you're a customer or client, you need to be able to trust your coach, mentor, or who is ever selling you a product or service to deliver the thing that they say they're going to deliver. So if you can, interact with them virtually or in person, then you can get those little nuances that can help you make that decision. However, what about if it's just on the phone? How can you then, make that distinction whether they are trustworthy? I know a lot of it has to do with the tone of their voice, but you can't see their body language. You can't see the little micro expressions. Yeah. How do we know that this person is trustworthy?
Yeah, you can't see the micro expressions, but the body language translates into the tone of voice. Think about it. If you lay back in a really comfortable chair and put your feet up, try and lay the law down with somebody. It comes across wimp. It doesn't have any strength in it. One of the things I used to do, if I had to make a phone call and I had to come across as a bit of an authority, I was really happy before mobile phones when they came out with cordless phones, because I could stand up and I could walk around. Not a lot, just pace around very slowly so it didn't affect my breathing. But standing up erect and with their shoulders back, I was able to project my voice. And so you'll notice anybody gets angry, they, shoulders go back, they step up, they step in. And so it all comes out in the tone of voice. So you can pick a lot of that up. But if you're looking at text, well, that's even harder again, because you can't see any of the emotion in that. And that's one of the reasons why I have a policy and that totally refuse to have long conversations via text or email. Somebody sends me a long email, I'll send them back a reply with 4 initials and a command to pick up the phone or get on a Zoom call with me. And it's TLDR. And it's too long, didn't read. Pick up the phone. And then we have a discussion. So at least I can hear their tone of voice. I can hear their emotions in the voice. Better still, if they're not in the same local area, get on a Zoom call. Use Google Meets or whatever video platform you prefer. Then the best one, though, is face-to-face in real life, because then we can sit together. We can also position yourself, because, you and I are looking at each other on the screen at the moment. We're looking straight at each other. In real life, that's confrontational. If we're in real life, I can come around sideways, side by side with you like that. And therefore, there's an escape route there at the same time for you. At the same time, I'm not imposing my pressure on you. We're able to then look at the problem together, not look at each other and pointing fingers. And this is the advantage of being able to do things face-to-face. My rule is always face-to-face, second over video, third over the phone. And on text, my rule there is go back to number 1 and get together in real life or onto a video, whatever, because I will never have a conversation. And even we're seeing it on Facebook every day. People are putting a comment up and then people take sides. They join the fight. There's an old saying that a problem shared is a problem halved. No, it's not. A problem shared is a problem multiplied, unless a problem shared is then worked on for a solution. You get to a solution, yep, you've not only halved the problem, you've actually removed the problem. But all this stuff we're seeing on social media today is people jumping in, throwing their 2 cents worth in. Had somebody the other day look at a video that I'd put up, and it's an hour long talking about quite a controversial situation. And in the first minute and a half, up went the comment of how he felt about the whole thing without having actually looked at the rest of the video. So he had a minute and a half out of a whole hour. And if he'd listened to the rest of it, it would have all made sense to him. So we're jumping in and reacting too fast. We're not taking time to really build that understanding of what the other person's saying. This is why it's so important to put any of the pressures, anything we've got aside, out of the way, connect with that person, understand them. And in most cases, there is no argument at the end of that. In my life, I've been lucky. I've had so many people who were upset about different things. I've started talking to them and they've become my best friends. In some cases, they've become my clients, and I made quite a bit of money through that, simply because I refuse to fight. I want to know what's going on. I want to know why things are happening. That's why having these skills to be able to read the person and be able to connect with them at that deeper level, once they feel that they've been heard, their attitudes change.
Yeah, it's important to be heard and to be seen, isn't it? And to feel that you've been heard and seen. I think that's a basic human element of all of us. We want to feel that there is some connection and that the other person values our opinion and values our presence on this planet.
That's right. Everybody wants, when it comes to a partner, we want to know that we're valued. We want to know that we contribute, that we have a place. It's no different in business. Our employees want to know that they've got a place, they're valued, they contribute, etc. And for all those people who keep using the phrase, work on your business, not in your business, that's only possible if you've got people in the business working in there. And the only way you can do that is by building them up, as I said before, that leadership role, helping them to take on the tasks that you don't want to do or can't do. And if they, even do it better than if you could do it better than you. So then you can go and work on your business. If you're a business owner, you can even go on holidays and not only know that the company will survive in your absence, it will not only survive, it will grow. This is why everybody around me, and everything I've done for decades now, I've always tried to lift them up to take over whatever it was I was doing so I could then move on to the next thing, and to do it in a way in which I knew that I could fully trust them. We've seen it in the Campfire project with Scott Carson, the way he stepped up, and now he's the managing director of the Business of Smiles and what he's doing there. In the surf clubs, everywhere I've worked, it's been the same thing. Because, as I say, no matter what arguments I've even had with people at the time, by having these skills, I can still see the strengths and the beauty that they have in them. And therefore, I can get around those problems really quickly.
Mm-hmm. And that's important too in business. If you've got someone that you may have a little bit of a conflict with, it could be maybe personality, it could be they don't agree with your with what you have to say. They've got a different opinion to yours. We're all different, and right. You've got allowances for those sorts of things, especially difference of opinion when it comes to life in general. We won't put anything out. That we have to take that into consideration. Everyone's different, and if we're all the same, we'd be a really boring world.
Exactly. See, I know that one of the traits that you have is that you like to get to the action. Once you've worked out something that you've got your head around it, and you go, okay, now just give me the best way to do it and get out of the way and let me get it done. So you like to get into it. There are those people who just like to look at all the different possibilities. So to you, when you're trying to get something done, they're going to drive you nuts because they just want to, it's what I call mental motive. They're driven by the thought processes. And so, but then once you understand the benefits that they've got, you give them the job to go and work out the best way to do things and then bring it back to you. So you can become great team members. But if you don't understand that, you're not going to get on with each other.
Mm.
And that happens with all the traits where we've got, three positions. We've got the middle position, we've got the two extremes. The extremes always clash in one way or another. But if you understand, and that doesn't mean the other person's got anything wrong with them. They're just different to you. And thank God they are different, because this is how we build teams, through the differences in people, not the similarities.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree. More. Yeah, Alan can be found on Facebook at Reading Faces, on LinkedIn at Reading Faces. He has several websites. He's got alanstevens.com.au. He's got thecampfireproject.com.au. He's on LinkedIn at Alan Stevens Human Pattern Recognition. His business profile on LinkedIn is Campfire Project. He's got a Facebook group for Alan Stevens, and another fan page. It's called Keys
to Understanding Your Child.
Your child. It's the keys to understanding your child. Thank you, Alan. As always, it is such a pleasure to connect with you, and thank you so much for all your support over the years. It's been absolutely, I love it.
My pleasure. And by the way, if people go to my business page, the alanstevens.com.au, go to the online courses, there's a free course in there that they can jump on and have test it out for themselves. So as they say, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Now, it doesn't matter how good you think you are as a chef. It's what the critics say when they try it. So if you've liked what you heard today, go and try that free course and test it out for yourself, and you'll know whether it works or not.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again, Alan, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you.
Bye, Alan.
Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us at the Talking with the Experts Online Business Summit with your host, Rose Davidson. We hope you found the insights and strategies shared by our esteemed presenter valuable. Remember, your journey to success doesn't end here. Keep applying what you've learned, stay connected with our community, and continue to push the boundaries of your business. Until next time, keep thriving and striving for excellence. Goodbye, and see you at our next summit.